Hey everybody, GR Zuniga. Welcome to the first episode of Talk Hard. Here with Mike Sheehan. How you doing, Mike?
I'm great, dude. I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, me too. So me and Mike decided that we wanted to do a podcast called Talk Hard. The reason for this podcast is the Gen X perspective is usually left out of the conversation, and we wanted to bring the Gen X perspective to everyday topics, things that go on in our lives, our kids' lives, our professional lives, all that kind of crap, and do it in a way where the the proverbial Gen X person might do it, and that's probably with the "I really don't give a fuck" attitude. Um,
Damn straight.
and we're just going to get through this regardless type of attitude, and that's what we're here to talk about. So with that, Mike, a lot of craziness going on right now.
Oh, this week has been nuts, dude. This week has been insane. I've been watching and watching and watching, and paying attention because we were planning on starting this week. We were planning on uploading our first episode, and this whole situation with Joe Rogan and Mark Zuckerberg and
Oh no,
the
yes.
FBI, it all just kind of fell in our lap. So this is a perfect beginning to this podcast.
Absolutely. So, a little bit of context for people who may not know what happened, what's going on. Catch us up a little bit, real quick.
So last week, Joe Rogan had, I believe, two different guests. One was Mark Zuckerberg. The other one was Aaron Rodgers, right? But
Oh yeah, yeah,
Mark
yeah.
Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg, in their conversation, it just kind of came up, and I've seen actually a couple videos from news agencies talking about how good Joe Rogan is at disarming people. And in this conversation, it just came up about censorship and, here's what Twitter did. And they started going back to the 2020 election with Hunter Biden's issues and Hunter Biden's laptop and all that stuff and how Twitter censored it. And and literally Joe Rogan said, "Did you guys censor it too?" And Mark Zuckerberg didn't catch that, so he didn't defend it. He just went into an explanation of what they did. And as a result, the media grabbed onto that. And hell, Trump fucking grabbed onto that too. So
Really?
just all kinds of stuff has gone on. Yeah,
All
it's
right,
crazy.
cool. Well,
We
let's share
probably
a
should
little bit
start
about the
with the
video,
clip.
right?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's cut to the clip here. Um, Here we have Joe Rogan asking Mark Zuckerberg how they reacted to this. Well, basically, he was asking if they went ahead and censored the
Yeah.
Hunter Biden story, right, and pushed it down. So let's listen in.
News item that's controversial. Like there was a lot of attention on Twitter during the election because of the Hunter Biden laptop story. The New
Yeah,
York
we have that
Post.
too.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
So we took a different path
awesome.
than Twitter. I mean, basically, the background here is the FBI. I think basically came to us, some folks on our team. It was like, hey, um, just so you know, like you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump that's similar to that. So just be vigilant.
Okay, so right here off the bat, Mike.
Yeah.
Literally.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna throw.
So-
we're gonna throw Twitter under the bus before I answer the question.
Oh no, definitely. I mean, so if you notice, he said, Twitter censored. We took a different approach, right? But what you're going to find out here is the approach that they took was very similar to Twitter, although they didn't ban it completely. They censored the shit out of it. And honestly, if the FBI comes to a private organization or a private corporation with this type of information, I mean, isn't that really textbook like collusion? I mean, let's face it. I mean, it's the FBI saying, "Hey, we don't want this to get out. We don't want this stuff to spread." Right? So what kind of organization is the FBI then to encourage anybody to censor free speech?
Sure. Now, I guess on the surface, it absolutely looks like collusion. Behind the scenes, we don't know what the hell went on, right?
Yeah, true.
And to answer your question, as far as is it collusion? Right. For me, it's that I don't know for right now. But as this story keeps unwinding and as we hear more bits and pieces, obviously, and we'll get to that in a little bit
Oh yeah.
further, but apparently Trump is out there waving the collusion flag, right?
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah. Trump is going nuts right now.
so it's getting more and more interesting as this unfolds is what I'm getting down to. But let's get back to Mark here and see
Yeah.
what he has to say more about the FBI being involved and why they took the action that they took.
Vigilant. So our protocol is different from Twitter's. What Twitter did is they said you can't share this at all. We didn't do that. What we do is
We're the heroes. We didn't do what Twitter did.
we have
Totally.
if something is reported to us as potentially misinformation, important misinformation, we also have this third-party fact-checking program because we don't want to be deciding what's true and false. And for
Stop. I mean, right there. Hasn't it been proven that all the fact checking that goes on through Facebook or now Meta is all just personal opinion of the fact checkers?
It's been shown that it is personal opinion of the fact checker. It's been shown that the algorithms are weak at best. That they're really seemingly, I shouldn't say really, but seemingly they are really just focusing in on keywords and perhaps images. If their AI is looking at images as well, it's focusing in on a few things out of context and flagging them.
Yeah, and well, you know what? Based from there, press play.
I think it was 5 or 7 days when it was basically being determined whether it was false. The distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still share it, you could still consume it.
So when you say the distribution,
So go ahead.
Wait. No, press play.
Decreased.
Watch this.
It got shared.
how does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So
There you go.
fewer people saw it than would have otherwise. So it
But
definitely.
we're not calling
By
that
what
suppression.
I don't know off the top
Right.
of my head, but it's
Exactly.
It's
you can
meaningful.
stop it right there.
But I mean,
dude. That's that's the thing, man. So they suppressed. So they allowed you to share it, but that didn't mean that it was going to show up on your friends' news feeds
Right.
as being shared. What they did was they allowed everyone. This is what he's saying. If I break it down correctly, or if I'm understanding this correctly, what he said was, you can share anything you want, whether it shows up or not. We decide. That's what he's saying right there, and that is where. I mean, we talk about interference with the election, interference with free speech. Isn't that? I mean, my God.
Well, it's super
My
dangerous. It's
God.
super dangerous and scares the living shit out of me, right?
That's a lot of power to have.
It's an enormous amount of power, which is quite frankly why we control our own podcast and
Yep.
we don't, leverage we will put it out to the different channels, but we don't let them take control. We take as much control as possible so that we can say what we want, how we want, when we want.
Absolutely.
And I think this is just it's putting everybody on notice that if you're going to go out into the world of social media now, if you're going to go out into the world of this new wave of media on YouTube and TikTok, that you very much need to take as much control as possible, because quite frankly, more than likely, you are going to be censored in one way, shape, or form if somebody on those that the gatekeepers don't want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. And let me add to that. Let me dovetail on that to this, which is something else that we want to talk about. That is political bias. That is absolute political bias to censor one story during that period of time that has a political foundation, that has a political ramification, to censor that story but not censor this story, to suppress this but not suppress this story. And I don't know what other stories there might have or have not been suppressed, but he's here admitting that they suppressed this story that had a political foundation and a political basis. And
Because the
that
FBI told them
is,
to.
yeah, that is a political bias, right? And that kind of moves forward to what happened this last week after that, right? After that happened, I think it was Friday. What's today? Today's Tuesday, right? So
Yeah.
5 days ago, a special agent in charge who was, and I don't know all the details. They don't give a whole lot of the details in the stories that I read, but the special agent in charge was accused of political bias during this period of time for suppressing that Hunter Biden laptop story. And he has since been fired from the FBI, and he was escorted out of the building on Friday. Now, what I also read was the quote escorted out of the building is, I guess, standard procedure when you're fired from the FBI.
But basically,
which makes sense.
Well, sure. So that definitely makes sense. But why was he escorted out of the building? What did they say he was fired for? Because they're not going to come out and say he was fired because he told the truth.
Yeah, that I don't know. That
Okay.
I did not read that. We can read on that a little bit more, and I can do some research on that, and we can talk about that on our next episode at the beginning just a little bit. But it's really interesting that that a person from the FBI who was in charge of suppressing this story after
That's an actual job.
well, I mean, he was not in charge. I'm sorry, responsible for. How about
Okay.
that? He was responsible for suppressing this story during that period of time. Now that this has come out and has gained such wide media attention, now that person's been let go, and that to me, something. I mean, 2 plus 2 is 4.
Stinks.
Yes, 2 plus 2 is 4, man. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck, And so
No,
the
totally.
fact that that happened right after this makes you have to wonder if this hadn't aired or if this interview hadn't occurred, would that person have then been let go?
Right. And I'll put my conspiracy theory hat on for all you folks. I'll be the guy who
Absolutely.
does that and say with all of this that they're now throwing out in the open, what's going on behind the scenes of all of this
Oh,
is what
yeah.
I want to know.
What
right?
are they trying to hide from us?
What are they
right
hiding
now?
from
Like,
us? What's really going on? Because they've got us all worked up about this, right? And so I immediately go to what's really going on. And we'll probably never find out, or we'll find out next year after, in 2 years after the election, for all we know.
Right.
But let's get back to Mark, see if we can get any more juicy tidbits
For
here.
sure.
A lot of people were still able to share it. We got a lot of complaints that was the case. Obviously this is a hyper political issue. so-
Stop. He said we got a lot of complaints that was the
The case.
He literally just said that. He said a lot of people were still able to share it.
and people got mad about it.
We got a lot of complaints that was the case. That's what he just said.
Yes.
I mean, rewind that a little bit. I want to hear that again.
Okay. Let's go back a tad.
off the top of my head, but it's
Gotta go back a little bit
5
more.
or 7 days when it was basically being
That's okay. That's
being
good right there.
determined whether it was false. The distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still share it, you could still consume it.
So when you say the distribution is decreased,
It got shared.
how does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise. So it definitely,
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's meaningful. But I mean, but basically, a lot of people were still able to share it. We got a lot of complaints that was the case. Obviously this is a hyper political issue. So depending on what side of the political spectrum, you either think we didn't censor it enough or censored it way too much. But
Right.
but we weren't sort of as
Come
black and white about it
on.
as Twitter. We just kind of thought, hey, look, if the FBI, which I still
Okay, so he keeps bringing up Twitter, and I think for good reason. If I'm Mark Zuckerberg, right, I'm
Right.
gonna deflect. If I'm
Yeah,
the
for
CEO of Meta and the spotlight's on me, however, no one's talking about Twitter completely censoring it. Everybody's piling on top of Zuckerberg. My guess is because he was on Joe Rogan's show, and
Yeah.
there's a history of, you know, data mishandling, data suppression, and all that. But you've got to think that Twitter is, in Mark Zuckerberg's case here, even more complicit in holding this story down.
Well, and regardless of whether they are or are not more complicit, if I'm Mark Zuckerberg, like you said, and I have a way to be like, oh, you think we fucked up? Check this out, right?
Absolutely.
That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing.
That's exactly what he's doing.
He's saying, hold on, you think I'm bad? Let me show you worse. That's what he's doing.
Check out Twitter. Jack Dorsey isn't even in there no more. But and Elon, he was trying to get things to bubble up towards the top, but that went sideways. But
That
I
fell
just had
through,
to
yeah.
I just had to address that real quick. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
View as a legitimate institution in this country. It's like very professional law enforcement. If they come to us and tell us that we need to be on guard about something, then I want to take that seriously.
Did they specifically say you need to be on guard about that story?
I love the way he asks questions, by the way.
I don't
yeah.
remember if it was that specifically, but it basically fit the pattern.
When something like that turns out to be real, is there regret for not having it evenly distributed and for throttling the distribution of that story?
He's good.
What do you mean evenly distributed?
I mean, evenly in that it's not suppressed. It's not.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean because
Mark
it turned
Zuckerberg's a
out
genius. He
after
knows
the fact,
what he
the fact
means.
checkers looked into it. No one was able to say it was false, right? So basically, it had this period where it was getting list distribution.
Stop. I didn't hear that before. He just said we had the fact checkers look into it, and none of them were able to show that it was false, meaning they weren't able to disprove this Hunter Biden's laptop thing
Exactly.
that they were currently suppressing.
Yeah. But we've already gotten this far. We fucked up, so we're just going to keep
Let's
on
keep
going with the current
Double
MO.
down. Yeah, we're going to double down and we're going to go forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, but I think like, I think it sucks though. I think in the same way that probably having to go through like a criminal trial but being proven innocent in the end sucks. Like it still sucks to have like that you had to go through a criminal trial, but at the end you're free.
Stop with the
Is he
poor
trying to
me
say
shit.
that Hunter Biden wasn't in the wrong?
No,
Because
that's not what
he
he's
was.
saying at all. What he's saying here is, us finding out that it sucked and now we have to actually be held responsible for it. It sucks much in the way, this is what I think anyways, it sucks much in the way is you're put on trial, you don't know what the clear answer is yet, and instead of being innocent until proven guilty, you're guilty until proven innocent.
Now, is that statement with regards to the information that the FBI gave them, or with regards to their actions?
To their actions, the way they handled it.
Again, that's more deflection. He's trying to say, look,
Exactly.
and I guess I kind of get it. He's saying, look, we got this information from what we thought was a trustable, reliable source, trustworthy, new word, trustworthy, reliable source, and we acted on it to then find out that that was not the case. Not that they weren't trustworthy or reliable, but that this information they gave us wasn't accurate. It was inaccurate, and now we got to pay for it. That's what he's saying, right?
Essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll give him credit there. I'll give him credit for that.
Well, I'll give him credit for playing good defense, like a good CEO needs to.
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean, essentially, he's backed into a corner, and he's in a no-win situation.
That's so true.
The problem with that, though, is he's not erring on the side. From my perspective, the problem is he's not erring on the side of free speech. And he's not erring on the side of let people make up their minds for themselves.
Yeah, true.
I don't know if the answer would have been don't do anything or don't have any process. I think the process was pretty reasonable. We still let people share it, but obviously you don't want
Ish.
situations like that.
But certainly much more reasonable than Twitter's stance, and
We let
it's
5 people
probably also
share
the
it.
case of armchair quarterbacking, right? Or at least Monday morning quarterbacking, I should say, because in the moment you had reason to believe, based on the FBI talking to you, that it wasn't real, and that there was going to be some propaganda. So what do you do?
Yeah.
And then if you just let it get out there, and what if it changes the election and it turns out to be bullshit? That's a real problem.
Thank you, Joe.
And
Stop.
I would imagine.
But wait, what if it changes the election and it turns out to be true, which is kind of what happened,
Well,
right?
we've seen
I mean-
seen a pattern. We've seen a pattern so far of stories being floated, and they turned out not to be true, and they did have an impact. Seemingly had an
Yes,
impact
yes,
on the
but-
election.
But in this case, it was all about Russia's collusion and Russia messing with the election, and it turns out that it was
Not true.
the FBI and Facebook and Twitter messing with the election from the other side. Let's be honest. That's what I'm seeing here. And I think Joe Rogan is seeing that too. I think he's looking at it going, well, shit, dude. You know, I can, and what he's saying here is he's saying, I can see the other side where if we let people run with it and it's wrong, it could alter the election. But there's the flip side to that coin where if we censor it and it turns out to be true, then we have altered the election. And
Sure. Now,
that's what Facebook and Twitter did.
But let's dig into that a little bit, right? Let's peel
Yeah.
back. Let's peel that back. Everything you said is accurate and above board, but the question to me then becomes, what do we as the citizens, as society, as the consumers of this information, where is the onus on us to actually take responsibility for our own actions, what we consume, how we react to it? How does that fit into the mix?
Well, I think
Because look,
Largely-
fake news is not new. It's been going
Yeah,
on since
no,
the
for
beginning
sure.
of time.
but largely if you take everything, people who rely on CNN pushes their agenda, they believe it. People who rely on Fox News pushes their agenda, they believe it. You have a whole generation of people that aren't watching CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, none of that.
Yeah, they're
What
getting it from
doing is
TikTok.
they're getting it from TikTok. They're getting it from Facebook. They're getting it from Twitter. And if Twitter is exercising bias towards one side or the other, then Twitter is pushing an agenda. Facebook is pushing an agenda. Whether they want to admit to it or not, they are.
No,
They just are.
I totally get that, and I totally understand where you're coming from, and I think you're just rehashing what you said before, to be quite frank. So the discussion, the
Kind of what I do, but whatever.
the discussion I'm trying to dive into is, well, that's all true. How do we stand up against that and take charge of ourselves and say, stop it, Twitter, stop it, Facebook, stop it, Mark Zuckerberg? Because right now, the way I see it, Joe Rogan's kind of pulling back the blanket a little bit in a passive aggressive sort of way,
Yeah.
So
And he's good at it too.
I love how he does it, right? Because he's just asking questions. And waiting to see the reaction. And I love that. It's cool and everything. But when do we start saying, this is bullshit? I mean, much why we have this platform and this podcast in the first place is we want to, you and I, that's where we come from. We want to start, inserting our views into the mix because they often get overlooked. Our generation often gets overlooked, and the headlines are on the boomers, and actually the millennials are even fading into the sunset a little bit because Gen Z's coming up.
Right.
And
we want to throw some logic into the mix. That's what we want to do.
Yeah, I
I'm
agree
quite
with
honest.
logic, but I also want to start actually digging in a little bit deeper and start saying, when do we start saying this is bullshit? This can't be done.
I
Joe
think
Rogan's
that's
taken
on
us so
everybody
far.
individually.
Joe Rogan's taken us so far. When are we going to see more things pop up like like our podcast or anybody else's out there that get more airtime, right? That become the that be,
I think you've actually kind of summed it up in your question, and the thing is that
no, I want you to answer it.
no, I know I'm gonna answer it, but it's not as simple as this is what we do or this is what we don't do,
Yeah,
because the
I
answer is
understand
going to be different for each individual person. But to your point, we need to recognize. We need to recognize what's bullshit, what we consider bullshit. We need to research. We need to do our own research, not rely on Facebook fact checkers, right? We need to do that due diligence.
Sure. Now,
And
what do you
until-
do to recognize? How do
wait,
you?
I'll get to that for sure. But until each person individually does that, there's no answer to your question, unfortunately. If what I do is, I listen to KFI, I listen to NPR, I watch CNN, I watch Fox News, I read the Daily Mail, I read New York Post. I look at both sides and
That's a
I
lot of
gather
reading, man.
information. I gather information and I try to ignore the filler words. And I try to look for the common themes and I try to realize, okay, so this is fact. Both sides have said this. This side said it's right. This side said it's wrong. I don't care. That's the agenda, right? I look for the common themes. I look for the facts within the case. And then I take those facts, I internalize them, and I make my own decision over it.
Sure. And
the problem is most of the world doesn't do that anymore. They let Fox News tell them how to think. That's all they watch. They let CNN tell them how to think. That's all they watch. They spend all day on Facebook, on Twitter, on TikTok. That's all they're watching. So they don't have good, valuable information from which to discern the facts and come up with their own conclusion. They're letting media think for themselves or think for them.
Sure.
They're letting media tell them what they should think, how they should feel, those types of things. And you can't say, what are we going to do about it? That's an individual thing. I do my thing. I don't listen to CNN. I don't listen to Fox News. I don't listen to KFI. I don't listen to NPR. If I see something on Facebook, I go research it. And I'm careful with how I research it. I don't jump on Wikipedia. If I see something that's medically related, I go to the National Institutes of Health. I go to the CDC. I know everybody has an issue with the CDC, but still, they're the best place for information on most things.
I disagree, but go ahead.
Well, they are. I mean, take COVID out of it. And, the CDC's in cahoots with the FDA. And I agree with that. But the National Institutes of Health, they publish studies on different things. And each study doesn't necessarily agree with the next study on the same topic. What you have to do is you have to use your brain. You got to use your mind. You have to read through that information. And we're such a generation of, and I'll say generation because it's just people in general nowadays, that the headline is the article to us. So whatever the headline says, I'm not reading the article. Well, I'm not that person. So I've read the article. And that's how I know that the article doesn't really match up with the headline. And you see it on YouTube also.
Well, sure.
Right? You see it on YouTube. They talk about,
saying.
Amber Heard destroyed by friends. And then you watch the video and none of that is actually proven or stated in the video. It's just it's clickbait.
Yeah, absolutely. It's clickbait. But let's go back to something you just said, which
Sure.
strikes me interesting. And back to your point, I understand what you're saying. What I hear you saying is that my question alludes to a complex situation, yes, that there is no real telltale solution. And to your point, okay, I'm not really asking to come up with a solution right now, but what you just said was that it's a society thing, and that's the angle I'm coming from. That's the perspective I'm coming from. Is this is a societal thing? So my question comes from, as a society, is it in us? Like, think about let's put it this way. Remember Terminator 2 when the little kid goes something to the effect of, "We're not going to survive, are we?" I mean, people.
Yeah.
right? Remember that? So
Uh-huh.
that's kind of where I'm coming from, is headed this way. We're not. What needs to change so that we can start turning that tide?
What needs to change is people need to start thinking for themselves.
Okay, I agree.
Going in never to my practice is to never accept what somebody says as fact
As gospel.
until I've been proven that that's right or wrong. And I, my dad's from Kansas City, Missouri, and it's, he was growing up. It was always the show me state, the show me state, show me state. Don't tell me, show me, right? And I kind of grew up that way. And so when somebody tells me something, even if you tell me something, until I research and find out, I can yeah you to death, but that's only because I'm uninformed. And usually I'll let you
100%.
know I'm uninformed. I don't know, but I'll listen to what you have to say, and then I'm going to research it. And if I find out you're wrong, I'm not going to come back and throw it in your face, but I'm going to at least know what's right, what's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what we lost. That's what people aren't doing. They're not thinking for themselves. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, both sides can be sheeple, right?
Right.
Both sides.
And regurgitate something that they heard and call
Absolutely.
it fact. And the one and it's we're being programmed to think short term and then to pass it off as progress, right? It's like oh, don't do the hard work, don't look into it, just take the surface level and that's it. So what happens is
don't look too deep because you don't know what you might find.
Exactly.
And they'll tell you, well, you may not understand it, so just take my word for it.
100%. And that's what gets scary, right? Is because it happens all the time. And what's funny is
By the way, we're looking for sponsors.
Oh,
everybody.
you did that. It happens all the time. I'll give an example of when I was younger and I was coming up, and I had a mentor at work, and he was very, very, very good at his job. And and this is when I was in the title insurance industry and working to become a title officer, right? So I'm starting down at the bottom and I'm working my way up. And we would come across issues, and when we got stuck, we would go to him and he would be our advisory title officer, right? We can talk through situations with them. Going back to what you said just a few minutes ago was show me. The way he said it was always, I want to hear your story. I want to hear your story, not something that you made up because you heard somebody else say it. I want to hear your story, what you think the solution is. And until you come to me with a story and not just the problem, we're not even talking, right? And I cannot thank him enough for instilling that in me. And I don't know how many times I tried to come to him, baffle him with bullshit, and he said, come back to me when you have a story.
Well, that's because when you come with the story, right? The story is the solution, or the story is one possible solution, or maybe not even a solution. But what the story or / solution does is it shows him that you've thought it through
100%. You've thought it through.
Absolutely.
You've to what you were saying earlier. You've recognized the issue. You understand what the issue is, and now you're taking that. You're digging a little bit deeper into thinking, okay, here's a possible solution. Here's a possible solution. Here's a possible solution as well.
And now you've used your brain, you've used logic, you've thought the process through. Maybe you're wrong, but now you're ready to learn.
Exactly. Your mind is opened up to taking his feedback, and also he's not going to give me. He never did give me the answer. He would point me in a direction and say, "I like what you're saying here. Go dig a little bit deeper. Let me know what you find out." And typically, all he was doing is saying, "You're damn near there. Just cross the finish line and come back to me and show me that you've crossed the finish line."
Right, and that builds confidence too, because then you did it.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
And I cannot thank him enough for instilling that in me. And I've gone and passed that along with my staff. What I say all the time is, I don't want to hear about the labor pains. Show me the baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, I'm a little bit different in my profession. I don't want to. I don't want to hear about the red tape. I don't want to hear about the procedure.
Labor pains.
Solve the problem. Yeah, I just solve the problem. How are you going to solve the problem? Well, we have this. No, that's not solving the problem. Solve the problem. Where do you want to get? Where do you want to be? Okay, go get there. Shut up. Shut up and do it. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
one of the things that I like to do as well is, I mean, obviously we grew up in the 80s. We very much grew up with movies and music and television as our influences, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, you and I play the movie quote game all the time. And one of the things that I like when I'm working with my staff now, I'm a digital agency owner, and there's a lot of problem solving in what we do. We help small businesses solve problems using digital solutions. And a lot of times, what I do is I'll be working with staff, and then they get pissed off, right? Because I'm not letting them off the hook. I'm making them bring the story. And
Right.
a lot of times what I'll do is I'll show them the clip from the Karate Kid that not everything is as seems, where Daniel's all pissed off that he's got to do all these chores, and Miyagi finally snaps and he tells him, show me
paint the
floor.
fence.
Yes, show me paint the
Yeah.
fence. And
Yeah,
all of
show
a
me wax
sudden,
on, wax off. Yeah.
exactly. And all of a sudden, it comes to light that, ooh, I have been learning something this whole time. So
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
pulls the curtain just a little
pulls
bit.
the curtain back, and super important. So we went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but let's see if we can wrap something up here with what they have to say. Or you got something else?
You know what's funny is to wrap it up. It's funny you brought that up. So this has been in the back of my mind the whole time. So today, this interview occurred. That FBI agent got let go, and today I saw a headline, right? And I read a few of the stories. There's not, unfortunately, much more than the headline just yet. We'll have to maybe revisit it and see what's going on with Trump in a few days. But Trump is demanding, right? He's demanding reinstatement as president or an immediate re-election or immediate new election.
So Mark's playing defense and Trump is playing offense.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And a lot of the stuff that I read, or people are like, that's just ridiculous. You couldn't if you wanted to. And I get that, but at the same time, I think that Trump feels vindicated in that, you know what? The CEO of Meta has admitted that they suppressed information. The CEO of Meta has admitted that Twitter completely censored information. And there was, and I think he looks at that and he says, you know, if there was ever proof that somebody interfered with the 2020 election, it would be the CEO of the largest social media network in the world admitting that he did so. And I think that's kind of where it's coming from.
Well, why not raise that flag?
It's really
if you're
interesting
Trump,
to me.
right? I mean, if again, giving Mark Zuckerberg credit that he's playing defense in the first place, because he's got a lot at stake. And whether Trump has anything at this point, he doesn't really have anything at stake. We don't know for sure if he's going to run again yet. Maybe he's just trying to wave the flag and get the next person, if that's DeSantis or anybody else, and help them out, whatever it is, right? I think that regardless of how outlandish his remarks are and raising that flag, it's something that needs to be done.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's you know, I mean, and we can all agree. And I feel comfortable saying we can all agree that Trump's, from a personality standpoint, he's a douche. Okay, fine. I don't care. You know, Biden has dementia. Trump is a douche. You know, George Bush Jr. was a coke addict in college. Fine, whatever. You know what I mean? He said some stupid stuff. Clinton did what I think every man is ever going to do when they're in the Oval Office, regardless of who's going to do it. Somebody's doing it.
Somebody's doing
right?
it.
So respect to Clinton. Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, whatever, dude. You know, it is what it is. Nobody's perfect, right? But I look at Obama was a great speaker. So I was going through some, and we won't get into this. I was going through some gaffes from the different presidents, and honestly, I could not find one from Obama.
Oh,
All I
there's
could
all
find
kinds of them.
on, no, there aren't. All I could find from Obama is him contradicting himself from like 2004 to 2012. That's all I could find. I mean, I can show you 20 minutes of President Biden having dementia. You
Well,
know,
that's too
I can show
easy,
you
though.
that.
That's too
I can
easy.
show you. I can show you 20 minutes of Trump being a total douche.
Again, too easy.
I know. I can show you 5 minutes of George Bush Jr. looking like an idiot, but it's super funny. You know what I mean? I can't find that about Obama. And it's just because he was a very good speaker. He was well educated and he was a very good public speaker. My point is really that you can't look at how somebody is personality wise. You have to look at the job they do. And if you look at the job they do, I'll be honest, you know, and some people, a lot of Republicans will argue this. Clinton did a good job. A lot of Republicans will argue that the House and Senate were Republican. That's why he looked so good. But it doesn't matter. He was in office. He gets the credit. You know what I mean? George Bush, Senior, Junior, great job, right? Obama didn't do anything horribly wrong, right?
I would
Trump,
disagree, but
Trump did a great job, honestly, of running the business of the country. Biden has just destroyed it, you know? And so if I'm Trump and I see this stuff happening this week, I'm raising my hand going, hold on a sec. So I do get that. Does he approach it the wrong way? Probably. But if I'm a multi-billionaire, I'll approach it however the fuck I want. Because, you know what I mean?
Billion.
I mean, seriously. If that's who I am, yeah, you know, grab him into pussy. That's what you get. You know what I mean? Whatever, dude. He's Trump, but did he do a good job? Sure, you know. And I think this last week has really led up to, and I know it seems outlandish and it seems ridiculous for Trump to go, hey, I demand reinstatement as president of the United States. I should have won that election. I don't think he's really asking for that. I think he's making a statement saying, hey, you said there was collusion. You said there was interference. There's your proof. And it wasn't on my side. That's what I think he's saying. I just don't think he knows how.
I think actually, I do think he knows how. He's doing it much in a way where Joe Rogan's doing it, right? He's just kind of dangling it out there and letting things fall where they may, right? I mean, look, if you can't get through to somebody and show them, look, you're being an idiot, you've got to change your ways, and the people out there aren't buying in either, then you know what you do? You put them on display and let them do it themselves.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, and to just add one more to the mix, I mean, Hillary Clinton, emails, Benghazi, but that's okay. That's okay. We don't like Trump's personality. He's a douchebag. But it's okay to let people die in Benghazi? Oh, okay. Because what? She's nice? She's not. But you know what I mean? But are you kidding me?
I love the conviction that you said that with, bro.
Yeah. Well, I mean, serious. So the personality of the person involved dictates what they can and cannot do? No. That's why we have laws. You know, oh, and you know, one other thing I heard today, I'm not sure if it's true. I haven't read anything on it, so don't quote me. But the FBI raid on Trump's, and I'm gonna have to go dig into this a little bit because I just heard it on KFI during one of the news breaks, so it was seriously 10 seconds. But the FBI raided his Mar-a-Lago estate to get information or really proof that he had of somebody's sexual misconduct or sexual infidelity or sexual history or something along those lines.
Somebody was a dirty perv.
And
Allegedly.
Trump had him by the balls. And so and we can't have that. We got to get that back from Trump. So I have to read more on that. I'm not sure. So don't quote me on that, everybody. But I did read that. So there's some future topics for us. For sure.
Good times.
But
good
I mean,
times.
this has been a great first episode.
I think it was a cool discussion. I really enjoyed it. We want to thank you for watching. Hopefully you're still watching and you're going to continue to watch. If you're going to continue to watch, the easiest way is to definitely subscribe, smash the bell, get notified of the upcoming episodes, and hopefully we'll see you. If you have anything that you want to talk about,
Make
find
sure
us
you
on
comment
social
below.
media, comment below, do whatever,
Yep.
get a hold of us. And, you know, let's just keep talking hard.
Yep, because nothing is off limits here.
For
Talk
sure.
hard means speak our minds. Nothing's off limits. That includes what you guys have to say. So bring it up. Let's hear it.
See you next time.
Peace.
Peace.